Are you...
Lost boys.
Every last one of us.
But you're not all boys. So?
I never understood why some people think in order to normalize things we should constantly point them out at every opportunity, but what do I know? Immediately following the release of the Peter Pan and Wendy trailer, changes could be felt. The first sign for me was the gathering of my neighbors outside of my window, people of various races, colors, and creeds, immediately followed by a news update that the war in Ukraine was over, and there was peace. Videos of neighbors, city and countrymen gathering together in an almost vigil-like manner across the globe, and the biggest sign of them all was when the North Korean regime decided to finally tell their citizens the truth, that Kim Jong-il went par on hole 18. The headlines made it clear. If Velma was what brought us together, it was Peter Pan and Wendy that finished the job and ended racism for good. And not just racism, but prejudice of any kind. Elizabeth Banks couldn't keep talking anymore.
I have been fueled in this industry a lot by anger and jealousy. I can admit that.
Andrew Tate said he was
wee, sorry.
Just like that. And no matter what your background, gender, or ethnicity, any negativity in your heart has gone directly towards these two productions. The world owes them a debt of gratitude and possibly the Nobel Peace Prize. All jokes aside, the trailer's been mocked for its pandering from both sides of the aisle, and it kind of sounds like what folks have been saying all along. The shtick is getting old. And don't think it's not a shtick either. From Disney's standpoint, the reason for diversity in their movies is to make money, ill-conceived as it is. Because in modern times, it's what major corporations think Western audiences want to see in their products. Yet in China, they'll shrink down Finn on a poster and keep the mask on T'Challa's face for a Black Panther one. They don't actually care, it's about what makes the most money. And I think that's key to why people everywhere are downvoting this one into oblivion and it's getting brutally rejected. Because we can see through the facade. The common denominator in recent years is the utter dog shit pumped out by studios that have a clear focus on the wrong thing. They're purposefully paying the wrong people to write their screenplays, and for some reason hoping that the clear and obvious cajoling will pay off in box office receipts and counter the lack of creativity. That's what all fans are saying at this point, that simply race-swapping characters is getting old and no one likes it. They'd like new original characters, which is, yes, hard to do. Even successful original characters are derivative at times. A wholly original character is hard to make, but there's no effort put into it at all. It's always the easy way out. A swap out of an old character in a remake of an old IP, and that should do the trick. Pandering instead of writing a good story means there's no reason to stick around unless you want to be insulted for 2 hours. And the law of diminishing returns means fewer and fewer people are seeing these things, or they just flat out bomb. I don't think the recent loss in subscribers on Disney Plus and the severe underperformance of nearly every Disney film has anything to do with those 7,000 layoffs and change of CEO, do you? Sounds like Disney's doing just fine, I've been told psychotically in my comments section, followed by a death threat. The whole thing reminds me of the movie Bros and that hilarious debacle. It was a train wreck. It was a gay romantic comedy, and the person who made the movie blamed straight people for it bombing at the box office. Well, I had to ask, where'd all the gay people go? Oh, that's right, not to your movie, because no one wanted to see it. It's like the WNBA. If you don't have a good product, no one will watch it. And don't blame other people if you can't draw in your target audience. I think Bill Burr said it best.
Dude, look at the WNBA. Nobody in the WNBA got COVID. They have been playing in front of 300 to 400 people a night for a quarter of a century. Not to mention, it's a male-subsidized league. We gave you a fucking league. None of you showed up. Where are all the feminists? Not men. Women failed the WNBA. Ladies. Name your top 5 all-time WNBA players of all time. Come on.
Surely there's a reason Disney's been dumping movies like this onto their streaming service lately. Probably hoping it might be good enough to keep people subscribed since they don't have to leave the couch. But definitely not good enough to not flop at the theaters and make the company look even worse. Take the loss publicly with box office receipts, or take it privately where you don't have to reveal accurate streaming numbers. The track record of live-action Disney movies has been fucking atrocious since their inception, and it's only gotten worse. Besides everything else, there's criticism of the technical aspects of the film already. Calls of shoddy CGI, a dour tone, and the film being poorly lit and too dark. An overall level of cringe production have been rampant. Combine that with the other poor track record of focusing on diversity over story, and you've already got 2 strikes against your script. Diversity and inclusion is a noble goal. It makes sense for stories that take place in the real world to look like the real world. But surprise, surprise, no one likes being pandered to. It's belittling and insults people's intelligence. As always, it comes down to execution and the intentions behind the production. For example, in 1989's Batman, the only complaint about Billy D. Williams playing a typically white character in Harvey Dent was that he didn't get more time on the screen to develop his character. Billy was damn well suited for the role, and that's all that mattered to anyone. Let's turn 180 degrees now towards some bad intentions and land in 1997, when the film adaptation of the comic book Spawn announced during production that they cast D.B. Sweeney to play Spawn's friend Terry, a typically black character in all other iterations. The obviousness that the studio was worried a black cast would diminish the white crowd was followed by accusations of pandering and racism, because it fucking was. As far as adaptations of Peter Pan, the property's no stranger to diversity and inclusion. The character of Peter Pan is traditionally played by a female, despite who its most famous iterations are played by, and even though Steven Spielberg hates it for no good reason at all, because I love it, 1991's Hook is a beloved version of Peter Pan in the franchise, starring a diverse cast of fun and engaging characters with the Lost Boys and Pirates, with every kid watching wanting to be as cool as Rufio, and a much maligned yet perfectly accepted off-tradition version of Tinker Bell played by Julia Roberts. So what's the difference now? Art has always pushed boundaries, and film as a medium has helped shape popular culture and become ingrained in the fabric of millions of lives. Years ago, when it was announced that the next Little Mermaid would be a black actress, that sounded on point. In art, to normalize things, sometimes walls have to be smashed down. This was around the time when the Disney diversity machine had just kicked into gear, and I hadn't yet been subjected to multiple movies and television shows prioritizing the very thing they wished to normalize by dumping it into a crap production, while grotesquely using diversity as a shield against judgment of its poor quality. Like I said, I never understood why some people think in order to normalize things, we should constantly point them out at every opportunity. This isn't smashing through walls, because it's not art. The reactions to things like this, even in the short time I've been on YouTube, have grown more intense with time, and with people from both sides of the aisle shitting all over this one, maybe the pendulum will start to swing back, ceasing its cadence to the extreme and ending somewhere in the middle where it rightfully should be.
Ladies,
GG's, gents.
top 5 all-time WNBA players of all time. Come on.